Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and to another video. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be going into a little bit more depth regarding my painting process and the different steps I take to create my portraits. I've obviously been creating much simpler time lapses process videos for quite some time now, and I thought it'd be a bit interesting if I just went into some more depth, talk through the different steps I take in my workflow. And it might actually be interesting for me as well in the future, because I'm in a little bit of a transitional phase with my art at the moment. So maybe in a year, in 2 years time, it'll probably be quite different looking back on how I create my art now compared to how I might be creating my art in the future. So I thought I'd make this video just to give you a little bit more insight, and also as kind of a record of how I create my art and the steps I go through at this very moment in time.
Okay, so the first thing I do, other than creating my outline, is to set a new layer beneath that one, which will be my background layer. I didn't immediately paint the background for this painting, but if you've seen my other videos, that is usually the first thing I do, just so I have something accurate to work off of when I am laying down all my other colours. I can see what works with what. For example, if you leave the background light whilst you're painting, but you're going to have a dark background at the end, that's really going to change how the portrait looks, especially around the edges of the face and behind the hair, and I just find it easier to immediately get that out the way. After that, I'm going to create another new layer, still beneath the outline, to lay down the flat colours which will form the basis of the skin, the hair, the clothing. This is obviously useful in all forms of painting, but I find it really useful so that when I'm blending, it's going to pull up the colour that I intended from the layer below and not say the background colour instead. And it just helps to keep the colours more accurate, and of course it gives it a little bit more depth as well, just as with traditional painting. To that end, I do work with the pigments on in Rebelle. So once that's all done and you have an idea of what the portrait is going to look like, I create another layer, and this is going to be the main one that I work from. I've never been someone who works with lots and lots of layers, but I do like to separate the most obvious things out just so it's easy to edit or build upon, because we're working smarter here, not harder. I also like to keep my painting experience a little bit more based on traditional oils rather than purely a digital kind of workflow. Don't ask me about all the different blend modes, because I will not know what all of them mean, so I'm not good at all of that, but a few layers I can do that. So the final layer I'm going to make is usually the hair layer, though in this portrait I did also keep the flowers on the jacket on this layer as well, just for ease of use. The reason I keep the hair on its own layer is because I like to paint the skin that is beneath the hair, and obviously the shadows and all of that, and then to lay the hair over that, so to speak. It's just like when you're painting eyebrows, for example. That's one of the things I always remember learning, is that you've got to have the skin beneath them, because their hair is not just existing with nothing beneath it, it's not in its own void. So that's why I do that, just to keep that depth and to make it seem like there really is a head under there. The whole time I'm painting, even though you don't get to see it in my time lapses, I am always zooming in and out, rotating and flipping the canvas to make sure my proportions are accurate. I have been trying lately to zoom in a lot less and to work on the bigger picture rather than getting obsessed with a lot of the smaller details, because a lot of my favourite artists, like Sargent, are masters of capturing details without being incredibly detailed, and I really want to implement that in my work. And I think I've put off being more experimental for a long time, but for the past year or so I have felt like I've gotten quite stagnant with my work, and I've been really trying, especially this year, to really branch out and try new techniques. And I've been surprised with how much I've already been able to adapt and integrate things I've spent ages just thinking about trying. I think it's really easy, especially when you don't have a lot of time to create art, to keep it safe and just do what you know will work. But I promise it is so worth it, even if you just take tiny steps to experiment with new things, especially if you have that feeling like I have, like your art isn't progressing, like it isn't getting any better. So my final steps are usually all over the place because I'm a perfectionist and I find it really difficult to put down the proverbial paintbrush. But when I know I am coming to the end, I just check over and compare with the reference image to fix anything that's glaring, anything that I perhaps glazed over before, and then I sign it. Once I've done that, I export the artwork and I tend to take it into Photoscape to add a little bit of grain to the image. Of course, this isn't necessary by any means, but I personally like the kind of print feel that it gives to the artwork and the way it just helps to bring everything together. And that's it. That's another portrait done.
Thank you so much for watching my video. I really hope you got something from it, whether that's just curiosity on how I create my artwork, or whether it will influence your artwork, your workflow in the future. If you did enjoy this video, I'd really appreciate you hitting subscribe, maybe leaving a comment, let me know what kind of thing you'd be interested in seeing in the future. I'd really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Thank you again.